10-minute murder.
Have you ever had that feeling where you're being watched? A chill runs down your spine. The hair on the back of your neck stands up. And maybe you chalk it up to being paranoid and shake it off. But maybe, just maybe, your feeling was right. Lauren Giddings recently graduated from the Mercer University School of Law. She moved from Maryland to Macon, Georgia, to pursue her law degree in 2008. In May of 2011, she completed her degree and was preparing for the next step in reaching her goal of becoming a criminal defense attorney. On June 25th, she was studying for the bar exam. That's what she had been doing most nights since graduation. Lauren had decided to really limit her social interactions during that time to allow herself the time that she needed to prepare for what would probably be the biggest test of her life. She had the support of her family and her boyfriend, but they did miss the frequent phone calls from her. Lauren's boyfriend, David Vandiver, was out of town on June 25th. He was actually on the other side of the country playing golf in California when he got an email from Lauren telling him that she felt like she was being watched in her apartment. She even thought that somebody had tried to break in. Not wanting to cause unnecessary concern, she did downplay it a little bit. Although she had previously mentioned that a few times when she entered her apartment, things were in a different place than where she remembered leaving them. But that would mean that someone was going into her apartment, and that seemed impossible because she always locked the door behind her. On June 29th, Caitlin Wheeler, Lauren's sister, became concerned that she had not heard from her in a few days. Lauren knew that she was busy studying, but she wasn't even returning phone calls when she had time. Caitlin was worried. She started contacting some of Lauren's friends to see if they had heard from her. Lauren's friend Ashley went to her apartment to check on her. Her car was in the parking lot in the front of her apartment, but she wasn't coming to the door. Lauren had a hidden key in her apartment, and Ashley knew where it was. As Ashley unlocked the door and stepped inside, she started to look around. She immediately saw that Lauren's books, keys, and purse were all still sitting there. So she walked around the apartment, but couldn't find Lauren. So she decided to call 911. The police arrived shortly after the call and started to investigate. They couldn't find any signs of forced entry on the windows or doors. Everything appeared to be in place, and it did not look like a struggle had occurred inside. There was no visible blood anywhere. So where was Lauren? Where would she have gone without her purse, keys, or books to study? The investigators sprayed luminol around and turned their light on. The bathroom walls, floor, and bathtub all glowed. It became clear that they were no longer searching for a missing person. They were now working a homicide case, and something sinister had happened in that bathroom. The crime scene was taped off, and detectives walked around the outside of the apartment to look for any clues as to what may have happened to Lauren. The wind shifted, and they recognized a terrible smell. A very distinctive smell that homicide detectives know all too well. One of the worst possible smells. There was a decomposing body nearby. They started looking for the body when they found something even more horrific than the smell in the air. They found a female's torso wrapped in plastic that had been thrown away in one of the apartment complex's trash cans. They couldn't find the legs, the arms, or the head. Chances are that the torso belonged to Lauren, but without the head, they would have to run a test to verify. At the same time the torso was being discovered, a local television station was there interviewing people at the scene. Stephen McDaniel was talking to the interviewer at the time. He was a former classmate of Lauren's and lived in a neighboring apartment. He was telling the news that the police said the front door was locked and they couldn't find any signs of forced entry. He expressed concern for his friend and hoped that they would find her. And as the interview continued, Stephen was informed that a body part had been recovered and his whole demeanor changed. He became speechless, his face lost color, and he had to go sit down for a few minutes before he could continue answering questions. Stephen had just found out, apparently, on TV, that Lauren Giddings was dead.
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean,
no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time, anything like that?
I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I mean, you always hear noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
And she just recently graduated from Mercer?
Yeah, she and I were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, I mean, we don't know where she is. I mean, the only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because, I mean, we went over, one of her friends had a key, we went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but, I mean, she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. I mean, the door was locked when everyone got here. I mean, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they had recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. That's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
On July 1st, Stephen voluntarily went into the police station as one of Lauren's neighbors to answer some questions and give a statement. His interrogation lasted 12 hours. While he was there, he gave them permission to search his apartment. In his apartment, they found memory cards and flash drives, the packaging for a hacksaw, and a pair of underwear that tested positive with Lauren's DNA. In the apartment complex's laundry room, they found a hacksaw that matched the package in Stephen's apartment and a bloody sheet that, after testing, matched Lauren. On July 2nd, Stephen McDaniel was placed in jail while the investigation continued. They were able to link him to the hacksaw and Lauren's underwear. After looking at the memory cards taken during the search, they were also able to confirm that Stephen had been stalking Lauren. That eerie suspicion she had been feeling that she was being watched was valid. It appeared that he had taken a wooden pole and somehow attached a camera to the end of it so that he could hold it up to see inside her windows. A search history of his computer revealed that he often looked up pictures of Lauren on her social media accounts while also watching violent pornography. Some of the other memory cards had pornographic images of kids. During the search, they also found a master key to the apartment complex, giving Stephen complete access to Lauren's place. He didn't need to break in. He had a key. The police had plenty to charge him. On August 2nd, 2011, Stephen McDaniel was charged with murder, burglary, and 30 counts of sexual exploitation of children. But in April of 2014, a week before his trial was supposed to start, he made a plea deal. Although he initially pleaded not guilty, he accepted the offer to plead guilty in exchange for all charges other than the murder to be dismissed and the opportunity to avoid the death penalty. Part of the deal was that Stephen had to give an actual account of what happened that night. And here's what he said. At 4:30 a.m. during the early morning hours of July 26th, he used a master key to gain access to Lauren Giddings' apartment. He wore a mask and gloves. At first, he just watched her sleep, but as he moved closer to her, the bed made a creaking noise, and it startled her awake. She immediately started screaming, and so he jumped on top of her to cover her mouth and grabbed her throat. She tried to fight him, but he tightened his grip around her and strangled her. He dragged her body into the bathroom and then walked back into his apartment. Later that day, after it was dark, he returned with a hacksaw. He dismembered her body in the bathtub. He disposed the pieces of her body in various trash cans, hoping that that would reduce the risk of being found. Then he went back home. All but the trash can with the torso had already been picked up and emptied by June 29th. After he recorded his account of what happened and taken the plea deal, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. However, in 2018, Stephen McDaniel's father started a GoFundMe page to raise money for an appeal. The page was quickly taken down, but that didn't stop Stephen from representing himself in the argument for a retrial. He argued that his constitutional rights had been violated. He stated that he gave consent for his apartment to be searched before being cleared medically, and that he was not in his right mind to do so at that moment. He also claimed that he had done a lot of research for his own defense and that the district attorney confiscated it all. He believed that he was not adequately represented by his attorneys and even filed a malpractice complaint against them. The judge denied all of his appeals. In 2022, another habeas corpus petition was filed by Stephen McDaniel requesting his conviction be overturned and he be released from prison. But again, his petition was denied. He will be eligible for parole in 2041. So how many times had Stephen McDaniels been in Lauren Giddings' apartment before that night? How many times had he gone in while she was there? What were his intentions that night when he entered her room while she slept? She was scheduled to move out of her apartment the week she was killed. Did he see it as a last opportunity to have an encounter with the woman he had been stalking? Whatever the case, Lauren was bright, and she had a promising future ahead of her. She was loved by her family and friends. She was a good student and a good person. Her goal was to pass the Georgia bar and become a criminal defense attorney. She wanted to delve deeper into the cases of people wrongfully accused of crimes. In a different scenario, a year later, if Stephen had allegedly killed a different woman, Lauren could have been the attorney to defend him in court. That's 10-Minute Murder for today. Brief and bingeable true crime. I'm Joe, the host, and thank you for listening. If you're new to 10-Minute Murder, make yourself at home, get comfortable, and subscribe wherever you're listening right now. When you become a subscriber, you can more easily catch up on all the back episodes of 10-Minute Murder. On social media, you can connect with 10-Minute Murder, see pictures of what we're talking about here in the podcast. It's nothing gross and graphic, but what you will see, for example, today, Stephen McDaniel, you'll see pictures of him. And you're thinking right now, why would I want to see pictures of this guy? He doesn't look like you would think he looks like. That's what I'm saying. And that's kind of the reason why I put photos of the people involved on social media. It's for the same reason that, like, if someone cuts you off in traffic, you kind of just want to know what they look like. Do they look like someone that's going to cut somebody off in traffic? You want to know if this guy looks like a murderer. The answer is yes, he does. He's got wild hair and he's kind of strange looking, but those photos are going to be on social media and you can connect with 10-Minute Murder and see all that stuff. I post them all of all the episodes. Links are in the show notes of this episode, or you can just go to social media places you want to follow and type in 10-Minute Murder. One of the most often asked questions I get for 10-Minute Murder are people asking what they can do to help the podcast. Obviously, I love when you guys send me episodes to talk about because I want to talk about the stories that you want to hear, so that's great. Also, people have offered to research cases for me. A couple people have wanted to do music for the show, various things, but the biggest thing that helps this podcast is when you tell people about the podcast. Let people know about 10-Minute Murder. Tell your friends, tell your family, and that's how 10-Minute Murder grows. The more it grows, the more I can afford to put more energy and resources into making more episodes. So it's not like you're not getting something for it. So help me help you. Help me help you. Okay, thanks for listening to another 10-Minute Murder podcast episode. I will see you on the next one. Bye.